Welcome all for this ink drawing tutorial. We're going to start by warming up. If we take a pencil and we just do some dashes of lines, we get some thin lines. We all know that. Now here's 3 ink pens. If you don't have them in class, you can use a regular ballpoint pen. I'm going to take the thinnest one, which is called the ultra fine. And I'm going to do the same thing, trying to replicate what the pencil work does. You're going to see that the lines, of course, are bolder. But if I go really slow and push hard with the pen, I'm going to get a thicker line. You also see that with pencils. And if I go really fast and lightly, I'll get really thin lines compared to the slow approach. Let's practice with some loosening up. So let's do some scribbles and some waving with the lines. Try to just express ourselves. Now let's go slow and do some slow undulating curves. This will help you gain control and do some twirls, concentric circles. Try to go from just straight parallel lines and then cross them like you're making a fence. Like here, that's called cross hatching. We'll be practicing that in a little bit. Stippling is dots. So can you dab dots really close together? Look, make them very crowded. And as you move from left to right or right to left, can you spread them out so it looks like they're separating slowly? It's basically like shading, dark to light. Let's try to do some circles that emanate out. Looks like something like in a wave or something. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go into these boxes that you have for some controlled practicing. We're going to start with hatching. These are going to be parallel lines. You can go in any direction you want to start. I'm going diagonal and try to fill that box with parallel lines. In the second box, we're going to think about circles, little doodles of circles, from really small circles jammed together to larger ones, a little less pressure on the pen as we get towards the center of the square. And as we go across to, now from the other side, we're going to get really close and we're going to separate them, make them larger like the ones in the middle. We're going to go do that from every corner. You'll notice it's going from dark to light now. Every corner we're going to do that. Circles back and forth, back and forth. What you're going to notice is a dark to light transition of value. One thing that we're going to take another Sharpie, or you can take an ink pen. Let's create some bold outlines in these squares. Helps clean up the edges. Gain some control using a ruler with a Sharpie pen or with a regular pen. There you go. Now we're going to go back to the first one. We're going to do the opposite direction now to create cross hatching. This is another shading technique right there. That's called cross hatching, where you have multiple angles. If I go really close with my lines and I separate them out again back to the original separation, I get a fade. We want to practice fading from dark to light. So we're going to do that from the corners as well in this cross hatch piece. I want you to gain some control in creating that natural transition of dark to light. So it doesn't look like it's jumping, it looks like it's fading. You can also do some swipes from the outer edges like that to create a darker effect. Some people call that a vignette effect. Sometimes see those in photo filters. I'm going to create a bold line here. Again, making these bold outlines is to help you gain some control with the pen. We're going to do stippling in the third one. So if you have a medium to thicker pen, this is a good one to use. I'm going to go from the outer borders, dabbing in some lines. Basically we're going to do a circular like pattern. So I'm going to take a pencil and I'm going to create like a dominating circle. What I'm going to do is I'm going to stipple dots loosely all around till I get to the frame of that circle I created. This is the most time-consuming type of ink technique most people would learn to use because it just takes time to build. So again, I'm just bringing in dots all the way to frame that in. Once I frame that circle in, I'm going to actually erase the circle. You get this feeling that there's a circle there already. without that, without an outline. Now I'm going to go from the edges and I'm going to do a fade as well. I'm going to go really close with my dots and separate them slowly to go from a dark to a light. So less dots and less dots as I go out from the outer edges. So really clustered there. Yep. And I'm going to turn it around. It's going to help create a rotating feature. So that's going to create roundness. You can see how I'm going back and swaying back and forth in a round-like effect. This could be really nice to, like for an outer space scene, like say the sun is coming into light or the moon emanating from a mist. We're going to do some wavy lines here. So take a look at this pattern, see if you can achieve this. I call it like the onion pattern. So we're going to create a wave there, and then we're going to create another one that's basically a mirror of it to create these like lava lamp-like undulations. You're welcome to try your own thing here with waves, but here I'm going to just try to create something that's just got a little style to it. So basically creating this wave pattern here. I'm going to take my pencil for some guidelines. I'm going to sprout these lines that curve around these shapes. I call this the onion one for this example because it's going to kind of look like an abstract onion shape. I'm going to take my pen and flute out those lines, these little flared expressive little hatch lines that move and contour around the shape. Gives a little bit of dimension as I build them up. The shape starts separating from one another quite nicely. So sometimes you need a pencil to give you a starter guide, and then when you feel comfortable, you can go without the pencil. That'll help you gain some control to create some roundness without having to create curvy lines. Okay, in this one I'm going to create some geometric shapes. Again, you can follow along with me or do something that's kind of a hybrid of this, but I'm going to shoot a diagonal line down through here and keep making these horizontal and vertical lines connecting to it. The thing is here I'm going to work on creating edges and building values within the shapes that I created. So by all means, you could definitely copy what I just did and get some practice doing that. So I'm going to take a thinner pen and I'm going to outline everything I just drew in pencil. I'm going to use a ruler here. Don't want to get lazy. It just breaks up some space. So in this one, I'm going to do some hatching, which is just some straight lines across. And do the same thing here, going in an opposite direction. And then I'm going to do some cross hatching on that one, which means I'm doing an opposite angle. Help see how much darker it got just by doing that. If I bring lines close together, ink drawing areas get darker. If I have them further apart, areas appear grayer or lighter. So you can see the difference in values there from where I doubled up the value by adding 2 layers of ink. Again, this is about building control and allowing you to feel comfortable with the pen. You can also use a ruler to create really clean straight lines instead of completely freehanding. So I'm specifically, now I'm filling that in. It's good to learn how to fill something in cleanly. And that's a little bit of a dark to light. The techniques I'm showing you are some simple, base techniques. There are literally 1,000 ink drawing techniques and styles you can do. Here I'm going to simply draw a cube like we've done in the past. I'm going to put a little drop shadow coming off of it and a little bit of a background horizon line separating like land from sky. Going to box that out, and we're going to shade this cube. And I'm going to play with any kind of line I want. So it could be something I've practiced already in the previous boxes, or it could just be something that I want to try out. So in this case, I think I'm going to go with more of a curve line. So I'm also going to identify on my cube what's the light side, the mid-tone side, and the dark side. So here I think is going to be my mid-tone, but I'm going to make the mid-tone and the dark the same to start off. Top I think I'm going to leave alone. So the dark side I'm going to add a second layer of those lines, instantly gets darker. And then my drop shadow, I'm going to learn to go from dark, close lines together to further apart to create a transition of light. Like my background, I'm going to just do some dark fill of close lines to separate the background from the cube itself. Actually doing a little fade. Yeah, there we're building the second layer, doing a little fade. And in the foreground, just do some light, far apart lines. And then I'm going to cross them up to practice that out. Okay, so in these 6 boxes, I learned some control. I can also see where my weaknesses lie and where I need to practice again. This is a good starter for you. All right, so jump into these exercises, whatever type of pen you have, and it'll help you get started. Good luck.